Shalom Aleichem, everybody. It's Parshat Matos Masey, and I wanted to share with you a very, very famous medrash and a very famous idea. The Torah tells us in Perek Lamed Beis that the Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, Chatzi Shev Menashe, they wanted a chelek of the Ever LaYarden. They didn't want to go into and settle in Eretz Yisrael proper. They wanted that fertile land on the other side of the Jordan. And they said to Moshe said, come on, you have to join the rest of Klal Yisrael. And they said to Moshe, Vayikshar Elav, they came to Moshe, Pasuk Tes Zayin, Vayomru Gidros Tzon Nivne Lemiknenu Po V'Arim L'Tapenu. Let us build pens here for our animals. Let us build cities for our children. That was their claim. That was their request of Moshe Rabbeinu. They didn't want to have a Nachla in Eretz Yisrael proper. And Moshe Rabbeinu, in his response, says the following. Okay. You want to go ahead and do so. You want to settle over here. You want to build pens for your animals and homes for your children. So Moshe says, fine. B'nu lachem arim letapchem, cities for your children, u'gderos litzonchem, and pens for your animals. Very subtle difference, but the Medrash jumps on it. Moshe reversed the order. They said, let us build pens for our animals and cities for our children. Moshe says, that's what you want? Okay, you'll go ahead and build cities for your children and pens for your animals. And in describing this subtle difference, the Medrash in Medrash Rabbah tells us, there's a pasuk in Koheles, Leiv chacham limino, the heart of a wise person is on the right side, the leiv ksil lismolo, and the heart of a foolish person is on the left. What is this referring to? So the Medrash says, Leiv chacham liyamino ze Moshe. To have your heart in the right place, in the correct place, that's Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, they are the ksil, Leiv ksil bismolo. What exactly is the pshat? That when it comes to Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, they took the tafel and they made it the ikar. They took secondary, made it primary, and Moshe Rabbeinu had to explain to them, understand your priorities. Make sure your primary is prime. You have your animals, and the Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven, they prioritize their animals over their own children. Moshe says, nothing doing. You want to go ahead and settle over here? Fine, but first your children, and then your animals. That's what the Medrash points out. That's what Moshe was trying to illustrate to them. And you'll argue, what does that have to do with us? What is the relevance to us in today's day and age? Do we not ever find people sometimes prioritize their money, their jobs, their careers over their own children? All too often we see people spending hours upon hours upon hours in the office and sometimes neglect their own families because of parnasa, because of careers, because they want that sense of advancement. So comes along Moshe and the pasuk in Tehillim and tells us, the person who does that, that's called leiv ksil bismolo. The person has to always have that sense of priority, understanding what's first and what's secondary. All values. Parnasa is very important. Family is very important. You have to make time for both, but understand push comes to shove. Certainly the tapenu, the children, the next generation, our legacy, is obviously more paramount, much more important, and that's the message that Moshe Rabbeinu is telling us. Rashi points out, very striking, is that it took 14 years, 7 years of conquest, 7 years of apportionment before these fathers from the Yeshivat, Bnei Gad, Bnei Reuven finally got back home. Imagine. They left their families with small children 14 years later, because of that prioritization of punishment, because of that prioritizing of their money over their own children. So they have, what's left is that they weren't there to raise their children, a midah keneged midah, and certainly when we organize our own lives, to make sure we have that sense of priority in mind, to understand and really establish for ourselves the leiv yamin, the leiv of the chacham is biyamin.